Good morning. I'm Jay Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the April 22nd, 2019 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. He is risen. He is risen indeed. That, of course, is the traditional Christian greeting on Easter Sunday. And here it is the Monday after, and I'm greeting you the same way. Because in Holy Week, in that original Holy Week, when Christ was crucified and resurrected, in the days following his resurrection, believe you me, that was what people were talking about. And it's what we should always be talking about. You know, we talk about the fact that every Sunday we have an opportunity in church to witness and celebrate his resurrection again. But the fact is, we have that opportunity every day. Indeed, every single moment of our lives should be just transfixed on that truth, that reality, because it is that reality that changes everything about us, our destinies, and our lives in the interim. I want to talk about the fact that Easter fell on a very important holiday in the Jewish calendar, and that is the Feast of First Fruits. Indeed, Paul in the New Testament says that Jesus is our first fruits. And when you understand this feast, Easter comes alive in a way that I think is just absolutely spectacular. In fact, were it not for the fact that so few people, unfortunately, would understand what I meant, I would, if it were up to me, I would say happy first fruits rather than happy Easter, because I think that the significance is so very deep. You see, in ancient times in Israel, there were actually three harvests. One was in the spring when Passover happened. Then there was one in early summer around June, beginning middle of June. And then the last one was in the fall. And the first fruits, the Feast of First Fruits, was packaged, you might say, with the Feast of Passover. And then the very next day was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then the very next day was the Feast of First Fruits. So, to understand that with regard to the Messiah, that would correspond to our Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter. So, first fruits fell on what we would call Easter. Now, the idea of first fruits was that it was an opportunity to thank God for the first of the crops, the first harvest, and ask Him to continue it, keep it coming for the summer and fall harvests. Now, the first crop was the barley crop. Just like we all have our own Christmas trees, but there's also the national Christmas tree at the White House, so too it was with the barley crop. Outside of Jerusalem, there was a field known as the National Barley Field. And months before, when the barley was first put into the ground, it was put in by the priests. And when the barley shoots got very just up a little bit, where you could just see the shoots coming up, the priests would go through the field and try to find a shoot that looked really good, looked perfect, looked like it was going to grow up to be very strong. And they would tie a scarlet or red cord around it and then let all the barley grow up. On Passover, literally on Passover, which would be our Good Friday, the priest, the high priest, and three other of his priests would go outside the walls to the barley field. They would find the barley stalk, now high, that had the red cord on it. The high priest would ask three times, is it the one? Meaning, is it the one? Have you identified the one that had the scarlet cord around it? And then, is it time? He would ask these two questions three times, and each of the three priests would have to say yes in the affirmative. When all three had given witness, then he would cut it. And this would be the barley that later, on the Feast of First Fruits, 2 days later, or the way they counted it, 3 days later, the Hebrews counted portions of a day as an entire day. So to them, 3 days later, this barley would be waved in front of the altar of the Lord, thanking him for that harvest and asking for more to come. Now, to me, this is absolutely fascinating because Jesus is compared in the New Testament to a seed that has to die in order for there to be more harvest. And that's indeed what happened. The very fact that on Passover, as Jesus was on the cross dying, the high priest went out probably right about the time, frankly, that Christ was put on the cross at 9 o'clock, and was asking, is this the one, and is it time? In the fullness of time, God the Father indeed was going to take from one perfect, if you will, barley stalk from this field as his own and as our sacrifice. As one of my members of my adult Sunday school class, who is a wonderful Jewish scholar, explained to us yesterday in class, barley by that time had come to represent the people of Israel. And also, the barley crop was a humble crop, meaning that it was really one of the staples of a poor man's diet. And so it's interesting that God used that as a metaphor for Christ, because this perfect stalk coming out of a field that represented the Jewish people themselves. So he was the perfect Jew. Jesus was, just like he represented that perfect, or the perfect stalk of the barley represented him. And in the fullness and completion of time, he was literally like that stalk, cut down and sacrificed before the Lord. The fact that Christ got up on Easter, the very fact that his sacrifice on our behalf was accepted and it paid the debt, and then he had the eternal life was given back by the Father, means that just like with the barley feast of first fruits, we know that our harvest, our resurrection is guaranteed. It is in the future. You know, it's a great thing. I was telling my class, even non-Christians generally like the story of Jesus because, if nothing else, it's the story of a good man wrongfully accused, harassed by evildoers to the point of being scourged, tortured, and killed. And then he gets one up on them. It's a wonderful story of the underdog coming through and good triumphing. And so even a non-believer can enjoy that story. Who wouldn't like that if they saw that in the movie theater? But to the Christian, it's more than just, isn't that great that he was resurrected? It means we shall be too. And God is trying to give us that great joy through having that occur on the day of the Feast of First Fruits. Visit me again on the next edition of the Bible, Delight in the Details, and live in the reality of the first fruits. Have a great day.